afternoon. You're listening to The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. Hi,
What's
Dad.
going on, Jasmine?
Today we're going to be talking about, it's actually a question form, so I'm just going to say it in a question. Do you teach your kids or do you expect from them? Obviously, we're going to go over the distinction between the two, but I kind of want to know, because I'm really big on the expecting things from your kids. I feel like I say that a lot. So I kind of want to know how you picked this topic to go over.
I picked the topic because it's a common theme between or amongst parents that I work with, either one-on-one or even in the training rooms, where parents have come to a certain point in their parenting careers where they've just resigned to and living in the illusion that their kids should know better because either they taught them once or taught them a couple times when they were younger, that they should know better. And I'm, as a trainer and a coach and, a person that is always looking at himself and figuring out, how I could be a better parent or better person, leader, I'm always looking at the results. And if your kids don't know something based on results, or they're not good at something based on results, you have to base on results that you haven't taught them very well, or you haven't taught them long enough, or you haven't taught them in a way that the lesson actually landed and they actually learned from it, and it's now part of their function or now part of their behavior pattern, or now it's just the way that they breathe, or it's the way that they choose, or the way that they act. So I'm always kind of amazed how parents get upset because their kids aren't doing certain things. So here's an example. The common gripe or complaint I have from parents is my son is lazy and he doesn't like to take the trash out, or he doesn't take the trash out, or how can I get him to do that? And it always falls back on, well, let's look at first how you taught him how to do that. Did you ever remember teaching him the value of taking the trash out, his contribution? Did you ever sit down and really explain to your son or your daughter when they do their chores, how valuable is it for them to take on that responsibility? What are they going to learn from that? And have you really done a good job? Have you taught them those lessons and not making it about forcing them or making them do those things or trying to muscle them into doing their chores?
Well, I can kind of understand both sides. I obviously can understand the kids who can get frustrated because their parents expect things from them that they don't know that they don't know.
Right.
But I can also see the parents' side where they probably don't know how they learn those things. If you learn something really young and your parents instilled in you that you do your chores and you take care of the house to contribute for the family, you might not even know that your parents had done that because you were so young that by the time you have kids, you don't know how to do that. Does that make sense?
It does. A lot of us parents that are Generation Xers or even baby boomers, we grew up from the fear-based parenting model where our parents, you know how they always say, that your dad gave you that look. You always know what that look is, right? That look is that, hey, I'm going to get the belt, or hey, you're going to be in trouble if you don't do your chores. And so we were raised by fear. So if we didn't take the trash out, or if I didn't clean my room, if I didn't do those things, there was a consequence that might have been extreme. So I didn't want to have to pay those kinds of consequences. So it forced me to figure out how to do that just so that I can get it done and I don't have to pay a consequence. But that's not teaching them a value. We just did those things and we learned to do them because it was fear-based. And you'll have parents that will say, what's wrong with that? It helped me learn how to be responsible and follow through with things and all that kinds of things. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with it. All I'm saying is that in today's world, with today's kids, the Millennials, Generation Y and Z, they need to know more. They need to be enrolled into it. They need to know why. They need to see the value in it. You need to learn how to teach them some things that has it be valuable for them to decide on their own. That, yeah, you know what, I should take the trash out. That's part of my duty. That's how I contribute to this family. That I get to own that. That's something I could be proud of and be responsible for. But it takes a totally new type of parenting to be able to create that with your kids.
And I think we were just talking about this last night at home. We were talking about how us millennials need to know why. And I guess a very common
response.
Well, I would say something common, maybe parents don't understand is, why do you need to know why? Just do it, kind of thing. Like, I
Or
think,
because I said so.
right. So they can't understand that we need to know why. But it does, for me, it's like, it's none of your business. Don't mind, don't mind it. Just tell me why. So it's kind of, both the same thing. They're kind of, you're constantly going back and forth with, uh, what that person needs. So if your son needs to know why he needs to take the trash out, then just tell him, if that's how you're going to get it done. I think parents are trying to muscle it, like to get it done in their way, the best way possible for them, so that they don't have to put the work in and sit down and have a whole conversation with that they should be contributing, and something that they think that the kid should know already. But how are we supposed to know that, and I know it seems obvious, but when you really think about it, if you're a young kid, or even in high school, you're 15 years old, and you can't understand why you need to pick up after your brother and sister, why you are the one that has to take everybody's trash out. So stuff like that doesn't really click or make sense to you as the parents. It does, because you take ownership of that family and that home, and you say, this is my home, this is my family, and this is how I'm going to contribute. It's not the same for us. We don't see it like that, because we didn't craft the home and the family together. That wasn't our doing. That was done upon us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you were born into this family or born into this team or this environment that which you didn't ask for. So I'm assuming that's how you visualize it. It's like, sorry, mom, sorry, dad. This is your home. This is your stuff. Why do we have? It goes back to the why. Why do we have to do those kinds of things? And that's why it's important a lot of times when I tell parents, in order to be a really effective parent in today's world, you have to learn some leadership skills. You literally have to learn how to create a team, and you have to learn how to create a powerful team. You can't just expect the team to just manifest itself. You can't expect your family to just fall in line. You can't expect your family to want to contribute. You can't have these expectations that your families or your kids are just going to all of a sudden naturally say, yeah, mom, I want to help you. And don't live in the illusion like, why not? Why can't I want them to do that? Well, because they have their own mind and they have their own ideas and their own belief system, and it doesn't make sense to them. So as a parent, it's your job to figure out how to inspire them or encourage them or invite them to step up and play that kind of a game, because it's that game that you've decided that you want to have in your home. I was telling one of my clients today, I said, it's your job as a parent to create an environment in your home such that you mimic the outside world. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, you have to create the consequences in your home for choices they make, such that, and you're enforcing them in your home, such that when they get out into the real life in college, or they're out 16, 17 years old interacting with the world, you've already prepped them and trained them how to make powerful choices, such that they don't create the kind of consequences that can come back and sabotage them for the rest of their lives. So you got to think of, at home, my job is to model the outside world on the inner world, and I have to kind of train you and teach you how to survive in that world, that big scary world that we got to get to go out and challenge and face.
I I understand what you're saying, but I think I lost you a little bit. Can you give me an example of something that you would model at home and would also be in the outside world?
Well, let's take for example, choices you make inside your home if they have no consequences, and then you're used to, or you created a belief that, oh, I can do as I please and I don't have to pay a price. So then you start to now live in that illusion. You live in that paradigm that I can do what I want and I don't have to pay a price or pay a consequence. Your family or your parents, they enable you to some degree. Now you get out into college and you start making these choices, and now your professors say, sorry, you made this choice, you got to pay a consequence. You make a choice out in the community, and a police officer comes and says, hey, you can't do that, you just broke the law, you got to pay a consequence. You don't pay a ticket that you got on your parking ticket, now you get a fine, you got to pay the consequences. So the world has choices and consequences. That's what the way it rolls in the world. Your job as parents is to simulate that in your home, such that your kids understand how to operate in the real world, so that they are successful and that they're effective in their life.
Okay, because I can kind of see a scenario where I mean, we talked about this 100 times. You could probably go back and find a bunch of shows about us talking about parents who enable their kids, and I think there is in my experience, parents who enable their kids also expect a lot from their kids, and those are the ones that I'm sitting there with my eyes open, like, is she serious? How are they supposed to do that if you do it for them? Like they're the ones that expect. I'm trying to think of an example, like if you do your laundry for your kid up until they move out, they're 25 years old, then they come home every weekend and bring their laundry and you get mad at them. It's because you've been doing their laundry this whole time. So in that scenario, I can kind of see how maybe enabling them too much is that type of parenting. What I'm trying to say has more expectations than, I guess, the I don't want to say average, but other types of parenting. Does that make sense?
It does. And in fact, I say this a lot. I'll say, imagine if you had a little tiger cub that you went on vacation and you were able to purchase and bring it home, and it was really cute, and all of a sudden you started to feed it and it started to grow and get bigger, and now you can't afford to feed this big animal anymore. So you go and you take it back to the wild and you try to release it back into the wild. My next question would be, do you think this animal is going to be able to survive on their own out there in the wild? And the obvious answer is no, because it doesn't know how to fend for itself. It doesn't know how to hunt. It doesn't have the ability to overcome. It doesn't have the ability to adapt or persevere or dig down deep and find that mighty warrior inside of it to have any survival mechanism, because you brought it into your home and you babied it. You enabled it. You brought its food to it, and so what you did is you robbed this animal from all the natural instincts inside of itself to be a mighty warrior and a champion out in the real world. Well, that's what you're doing to your kids by loving them too much, or giving them too much, or creating an environment that which they don't suffer or pay any consequences, or they don't struggle at all. So if you do that to an extreme, then you're robbing your kids from having a fire inside of them, a passion, a determination. And then you're sitting there wondering why your kids at age 30 are still at home playing video games, ordering Domino's on your credit card, and still hasn't gone off the couch to go find themselves a job because they lack that determination. But then you're living in the illusion and having the expectation that they should, only to find out, whether through a life coach or a good friend or a mentor or somebody you trust that points it out to you and goes, well, where did they learn this from? And then you have to really look at that and go, wow, no one's ever pointed it out to me, or no one has ever asked me that question. And upon reflecting, now I got to realize all of that happened under my watch. For the last 20, 30 years, I've been enabling my kid to a certain degree. I'm not saying that you can't enable your kids at all or can't give them things. I'm just saying when you do it too much, you rob them from this opportunity for them to realize that they are true champions deep inside.
Yeah, and the point that you've painted that picture perfectly, so thank you, because I wasn't able to get that out. But the point that I was trying to make was that when it does come time for them to leave and move on, and they're out there struggling, it makes me wonder if some parents are sitting there like, is it breaking their heart that their kid's struggling and having such a hard time, and they want them to come back and let me enable you some more and let mom take care of you? Or are they sitting there acknowledging, beating themselves up like, oh, this is, what I did? But I also, which I feel like maybe that's not as common, but I also think that they have the expectation where they think, why aren't they out there doing this? Why did it take them so long? Why, they have all these, now they have why questions, and it really comes back obviously to them. But for me, that expectation, I will always say this, parents having those expectations of their kids when they didn't properly prepare them, or I shouldn't say properly, effectively prepare them for the outside world. For me, that's where personally I feel like I can get stuck too. I can get stuck as the kid in it thinking, how am I supposed to do this? My parents are expecting me to make something of myself, or expecting me to know how to handle this situation, and I've never been prepared for this, or this is not something I've ever handled on my own.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes as parents, we love our kids so much that we want to make the road either simpler or easier. Or if we put ourselves in their shoes when we were younger, we was like, man, I wish I had these opportunities. I wish my parents would have given me these things. So what we do is we go ahead and we shower them with those gifts or those blessings, or we give them those opportunities to make it up the ladder a little quicker or a little easier, not realizing that we're totally chopping their toes off because we're not giving them a little bit of balance. We're not letting them find their own opportunities, struggle, fall off the ladder, get back on and climb another 10 steps up. So it's really a dance that parents get to learn how to balance themselves. And when you've heard me talk about this a lot, for every request that your kids ask of you, you have to force yourself, especially if you love your kids so much and you want them to have the world, you got to force yourself to say no on purpose. Not that you can't give it to them, but that you're going to choose not to give it to them because you don't want to rob them from that opportunity to realize they really have deep down inside of them what it takes to figure out how to create it on their own. Don't be so quick to just hand it to them. Give them opportunities to figure out how to get to certain stages to create it on their own. If you realize that you are an enabler or you do need to be needed, or it's one of your, dysfunctions of, I need my kids to need me, or I need to help them, then start weaning yourself off a little bit. Instead of giving them everything, tell them, I'll tell you what, I'll match your 50%. You bring 50, I'll bring 50. Or you bring 80, I'll bring 20. But start dialing yourself back such that your kids start to realize that they have these inner qualities within them that's instinctively in you. Like instinctively in you, there's this mighty warrior inside you. And every day as a conscious dad, I'm trying to figure out at what point do I help you and at what point is my help hindering you. So I have to pick and choose when to help you and learn when to sit back and let you struggle. And realize that it's beautiful on both sides. It's beautiful for me to give to you and give you those opportunities. But it's also beautiful to sit back and let you struggle and figure out that you have a mighty champion inside of you. Because when you realize it for yourself and that light goes on, it's an amazing gift.
And I know for us growing up, we kind of had the side where we couldn't get anything or do anything without doing something in return. So it was, if I wanted to go to my friend's house, I had to do this, this, and this for that privilege. And I think little things like that, even though we weren't actually necessarily working towards creating it on our own, we were still shaped to realize that not everything was just going to be handed to us. So if I, wanted new shoes or headphones or whatever it was as a kid, I knew that I had to work for it. I knew that there's no way I was going to ask and just get it. I always had to do chores or extra work around the house or whatever to get to that. But what about, some parents are probably constantly fighting with, your kid comes up to you and says, Mom, I need new shoes. And you want to give it to them, but you also want them to kind of work for it. There's that internal struggle, I'm sure, that parents are going to have to go through.
Well, yeah, and then you start to get creative with it because the conscious parent is the creative parent, figures out how to create a win-win rather than a win-lose, because win-lose is I feel like I've won because I've gave them something, but they lose ultimately because they don't figure out how now to get for themselves. So a win-win just looks like you're bartering, or negotiating. You start. So instead of saying yes to every request, it's a conscious choice to figure out how to create a partnership in it. Okay, great. I know you want these new shoes. How bad do you want it? Start a dialogue. In that dialogue, you can get creative enough to figure out how to get a little bit of excitement or passion or desire in your son or daughter such that they figure out how to come up with a solution. One of my mentors, one of the things I learned from her was that she would, and a lot of her requests, she wouldn't say yes. What she would say is, all right, tell me what you're willing to do to create it, and then let's have another conversation. So she would let her son,
I hate that.
So let her, let her
you
son,
do that to us.
so let her son or daughter, sit and try to figure out rather than just getting that free handout. And then they put the thought into it. When they come back, it's such an amazing experience to have your son or daughter come back and go, all right, Dad or Mom, I've been thinking about it. Here's my game plan. And inside, your face is lighting up because you're going, man, they really put some thought into this. They got creative. So by me putting you into the question and you thinking about how you're going to create it, or, hey, I'll support you in the idea, or I'll support you to 20%, you bring your 80%, it's already starting the wheel spinning for you to figure out how to be a young entrepreneur. It's starting for you to reflect and figure out how to be creative enough to create the things that you want in your life. It's already starting a little fire or a passion inside of you. It's already mustering up a little determination inside of the 6 or 7-year-old when you put it back in their lap and ask them to come up with a game plan or an idea. That's your job as a parent, is to not give your kids everything, but to find teachable moments for you to really give them an opportunity for them to figure out how to discover that they have this creative warrior inside of them, and they can muster it up whenever they want.
But that seems like a lot of work.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times when I'm coaching and mentoring, parents, I'll tell them, because they'll come to me and say, Alex, how do I this or how do I that? And I'll tell them, do you want the easy answer or do you want the one that's going to take work? Because the one that's going to take work is going to be the one that's going to give you dividends for the rest of your son or daughter's life. The magic pill is the Mr. Fix-It or slap a Band-Aid is going to be the just buy it for them. But you're going to pay a consequence, because when you buy it for them, you're just giving it to them, and then you're robbing them from these inner gifts and qualities that they're not going to be able to discover about themselves. So you're going to pay a price either way. You just got to figure out which one, and then what's your purpose as a parent. Some parents have kids because they had them for selfish reasons. It's just to give me the love, give me the attention, give me some worth. Or did you have kids with the intention and an ongoing intention to have kids so that you can teach them, so you can pass your wisdom on to them, so that you can learn some life lessons and then pass them on to them, such that they go and have a more extraordinary life than you did. So you got to really kind of look at yourself and say, why did I have kids? And kind of be in that question, because the reason why you had kids is going to determine their outcome ultimately, and their learning and their success. I
think even when they are in that question, though, nobody really is going to want to say, oh, I had them selfishly, so I'm done with my work here.
But that's the starting point of consciousness, especially in conscious parenting. And I had to come to that conclusion that I did have you and your sister and your brother for selfish reasons, but it was because I was unconscious. And when I was a young man, I wanted kids because I wanted to be a father, but I didn't have the awareness to say I want to be a father so that I can teach them how to be extraordinary young adults, because I was a kid myself. So it's okay to acknowledge that. Yeah, I did have them because I wanted something, some little baby to love and to have it be mine and have that special bond. But upon my awakening, I realized further that being a father or a parent is way bigger than that. And so it was about waking myself up and realizing that, and then answering the call to the next level.
We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, STV.
Don and Gino here. So we know you want to have fun learning about real estate and finance. You're going to want to tune in this Saturday, 9 a.m. to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here on your hometown station, AM 1220. We have some hot topics, as always, guiding you to personal and financial wellness. And that's right, you don't want to miss it. So again, this Saturday, 9 a.m., and then we replay it online Sunday, 9 a.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Join us.
The Black Square, where everything is always made from scratch, always farm the table, and always organic. We offer artisan pizzas, delicious burgers, and creamy superfood shakes. The Black Square has a great selection of over 27 California craft beers to satisfy any palate, as well as craft sodas and organic teas. The Black Square provides a full-service, plant-based, friendly, and omnivore menu. Dine in, take out. You choose, we provide. The Black Square, breaking free of the chains. The Black Square Cache Public House on Cinema Drive between Railroad Avenue and Valencia Drive.
Find the perfect job for you at College of the Canyon's 2017 Job and Career Fair on the COC Valencia campus on Friday, October 6th from 9 a.m. till noon. The fair will feature businesses from a variety of industries looking to fill positions ranging from entry-level to management. While at the fair, meet with employers, visit KHTS's virtual job fair, and attend one of the many career-related workshops. Bring plenty of resumes and dress to impress. Visit cocjobfair.com for more information. That's cocjobfair.com.
You're hometown station, KHTS.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about if you teach your kids or do you expect from them. So towards the end, we kind of got a little bit off topic, but so
don't we always go on our own little side roads?
Yes, but that's the best. So I want to jump back into our topic and maybe throw out some ideas, some possibilities that parents can put themselves in a category, because I think 90% of parents are going to say, of course I teach my kids, not realizing that maybe 80% of them really are not.
So what I'll do, so actually what I did was wrote down some questions to have you really think about it, because you can very easily live in the illusion that you are the master teacher and the master trainer to your kids, and then until questions start to come up that are proposed to you. So the questions I wrote down is, do you see mistakes, failures, shortcomings as teachable moments? So when your son or daughter spills, their soup on the floor, just after you told her, don't walk it over there, I'll take it. And she goes, no, mommy, I could do it. And she goes and spills it all. In that moment, do you react? I go, see, I told you not to do. Do you go into reaction, or are you proactive in that moment and go, it's okay, honey. That's why mistakes. That's why they call them mistakes. I'll help you pick it up. So again, is it a teachable moment? Do you see it as a teachable moment, or do you just react and then do you project all your frustrations and your anger onto them? So that goes to show you, are you teaching them, or are you reactive to them and making them bad and wrong because they didn't listen to you?
I don't like this game because I'm listening and I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Well, I can see myself doing that. I can see myself reacting, and I know which answer I want to say. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can imagine parents listening and know which answer they want to say, but know which one they really do.
Exactly. So that's why I'd say we live in the illusion as parents. We pretend not to know. And one of my biggest, stories I talk about, especially in my book, The Inspirational Parent, I tell on myself, and it's a story when I was a young man, father, when your brother was fishing, when I was on a fishing trip with him, and he got his line all tangled up, and he brought it to me very innocent, and he came to me and said, Dad, I tangled my line. And as I'm watching this video of me, the younger me, react and get upset, like, man, I thought I taught you how to fish. Why did you tangle it up? And that's when I just broke down, and turned to him and said, I'm so sorry that I reacted like that and projected all my frustration and all of my stubbornness and all the inner qualities of me that I still needed to work on as an unconscious dad. I wasn't mature enough or conscious enough to be able to see that. I could have saw that as a teachable moment and said, hey, don't worry about it, son. Let me show you one more time. Bring it over here. Let me show you how to untangle this. Like, I didn't have the patience at that age to be able to see it like that. So it's all about, in your perspective, do you see their shortcomings, their failures, their mistakes that they're making? Do you see them as a teachable moment for you to go, oh, obviously based on results, I didn't teach you very well how to tie your shoe or take the trash out, or even how to walk in a room and go greet your grandparents, or I didn't teach you that based on results, otherwise it would have stuck. Otherwise it would have just become now a behavior pattern of yours. It just would have been a habit, but it's not. So now I got on our drive back home, I got to now open up a dialogue and explain that to you again. Hey son, next time we go to your grandparents' home, the first thing you should come in and greet them and give them a hug and a kiss and say hi to them. Acknowledge that they exist, acknowledge that they're here, that they're present, and let them experience you and how much you miss them and all those kinds of things. So those are teachable moments. Instead of getting angry or upset and being reactive, do you see those moments to be opportunities to kind of speak into?
Okay, next.
The next one is, what are you teaching them? If you are finding those moments as teachable moments, what are you teaching? Are you teaching them morals, values, principles? And then how are you teaching them? Are you teaching them through stories? Are you teaching them through asking them questions to self-reflect on themselves? Or are you telling them what they did wrong? A lot of times as parents, we see something that we don't like or something that needs to be course corrected, and then we start to tell them what you did wrong. That's the first thing we start off with, right? And then when as we're telling them what they did wrong, in our tone, you can hear the frustration. You can hear the disappointment. So now we're projecting the disappointment and frustration onto them, and now what they're doing is they're affirming their limiting beliefs about themselves. There I go again, disappointing my mom. There again, I'm not good enough. So we don't realize this psychological cycle that we're in, that we just keep like in a tumbling wheel. Just
But
going
can
over and
you
over.
tell them what they did wrong without having all of that, or is it just worth it to not tell them what they did wrong and continue with the lesson?
I like that. It's a great question. A lot of times we can teach people lessons without even bringing up what they did wrong. I think as human beings, we think that we have to communicate and really land what they did wrong. And in the book, and I don't know if you've read the whole book yet, but there's a section there. She goes,
Just kidding.
"Oh." There's a section there where I talk about when you were a kid and you were lying to me a lot, right? And I just outed you because I didn't out you in the book, but I talked about one of my kids.
We all knew.
Yeah, we all knew who it was. But, it was in that moment, unconscious father was being upset at you and, telling you what you did wrong and what you did that you were bad and wrong because of what you did. And then the conscious version of me looked back and, was able to see that I projected all my frustration onto you, that I projected my disappointment, and that I was realizing by me projecting that onto you, it was tainting your little spirit. It was giving you more evidence to validate all the limiting beliefs that you had, that you're a bad girl and that you're a disappointment to daddy and all those kinds of things. So it was a very powerful moment for me to realize that that's how I was showing up to you. So instead of doing that, what I did was, from the conscious moment, I was able to sit down with you and be more compassionate for what you were going through in that moment and take a more softer approach. And if you read the book, I walk you through this process where you and I had this very powerful moment where I let you know that, hey, it's okay. I also don't tell the truth all the time. And I need to remind you that I love you, and it doesn't matter if you tell the truth or not, you'll always be my little girl, and I'm not disappointed in you. So we got to learn how to have those teachable moments and have them be powerful rather than kind of smothering the spirit of our little kids, because they grow up to be dysfunctional young adults, and they never, some of us never rebound from that.
And I want to point out what you said about kind of having the sit down and conversation, trying to understand what your kid's going through, and I guess their reasoning behind things. Because I know that for me, when I was younger, I had a little sister, so I got blamed for everything she did and everything I
Right.
did. So for me, it was easier to lie. And that's exactly why I just lied. And
Right.
then because I didn't want to get in trouble for something that wasn't me. So I think if maybe you and mom understood that when I was young, that we would have had a completely different story, and maybe for that year or whatever, I wouldn't have gone on lying for so long.
Right.
Because that could have been, if you guys would have known, you guys maybe would have been a little bit more conscious about blaming me for stuff, or having each individual kid
or
take
if we were more
responsibility.
mindful, or therapists. Like, a lot of us as parents, we're not therapists. We don't know the psychology that kids are going through. And then you take the learning curve of the little kid. Like, if you would have had the ability to articulate yourself, which of course you're not going to do that at 5 or 6 years old. You're not going to say, hey mom, hey dad, the reason why I'm lying is because I got to take the brunt for my little sister too. But I'm the adult, so I get to figure out how to be more aware and more conscious and create a more softer, loving environment. I don't know if you remember this or not, but what I said to you was, from this point forward, if you tell me the truth, I promise you won't be in trouble. That I will start to show up in a different way. You'll have more permission to lie, and then clean it up. As long as we can clean it up, then we'll move forward from here. I also remember telling you, and I don't know if you remember this, but what I said to you was, I asked you a very powerful question. And I said, when you get older, do you want people to not trust you? And I remember the little tears, crocodile tears running down your face, and you said, no, I want people to trust me. And that became the teachable moment. And that's when I said, okay, then if you start lying when you get older, you're not going to have people that are going to trust you. It's going to be hard for you to be in relationships. It's going to be hard for you to find jobs. Like, I had to try to paint this picture for you of what it would look like as this 22-year-old woman still lying. You know what I'm saying? Where people don't trust you and people are turning their back on you. You have no credibility. So I had to paint that picture and trust that you were smart enough to grasp it. And obviously you did, because you did a 360, and it was an amazing transformation. But it took for me to find a teachable moment, teach morals, values, and principles in that moment such that that it clicked for you, and then it course corrected it. And then I want to talk about some of the subjects. Like if you're finding teachable moments, what are the subjects you're talking about? Teachable moments can be about mistakes. You got to learn how to take a mistake and teach what a mistake looks like, and really kind of learn the distinction and teach your kids that it's okay to make mistakes in our home. Mistakes aren't bad and wrong. Mistakes are learning opportunities. Let's start looking at mistakes as a stepping stone. I'd rather you have a million mistakes in your life than living your life not making any mistakes and not being courageous enough to take on the world. Some other subjects are leadership. Are you teaching your kids how to be mini leaders? Are you teaching them how to take responsibility for things in their life? Are you teaching them all the leadership distinctions that you still probably as a parent need to learn yourself? You could be teaching them as well as modeling it. Are you teaching them how to be considerate of other people's feelings? Like when they do something, they say something mean to their brother or their sister, do you sit them down and go, hey, son or daughter, have you ever thought of what it feels like to be your sister when you're being mean to them or when you're taking their things? Have you considered their feelings? Are you taking these moments to teach them how to be considerate towards others? Are you teaching them how to have honor? How to honor other people, how to honor themselves, how to have self-worth. So I can go on and on about all the different subjects that are teachable moments when you see something that your son or daughter is doing that you need to make a course correction. The question is, in that course correction, are you reactive? Are you proactive? Most of us, when we're unconscious, we're reactive and we're attacking the problem from fear, rather than stopping yourself and going, okay, great, this gets to be a teachable moment. Let me find the moral, the value, the principle, or the subject that I want to teach here. That's really the question. And the purpose of why I wanted to have the show today was to just introduce that if you're a newcomer in conscious parenting of, wow, I didn't realize I actually had a choice. I wasn't able to even reflect on myself, Alex, before you even had this discussion about it.
I wanted to kind of point out that on some of those points that you were just saying, about those teachable moments, they're constantly happening every second. And because as you were saying that, I was thinking of all the times that me and my sister and me and my brother either fought or, whatever it was. I can think of very specific examples that happen all the time, and they happen throughout my whole life. They continue to happen because they were never addressed or they were never specifically taught. And
yeah, so imagine if I would have sat you guys down when you and your sister are always bickering. Imagine if I would have sat you down and said, hey, is this how you want to be treated? And then I could have had a whole new moment of teaching you guys treat others the way you want to be treated. And so, it's like if you're a spiritual person, you go to church and you learn all these powerful distinctions at church, or your spiritual mentor, they're teaching you all these beautiful ways to live your life, to master it. Do you actually teach them? Do you sit down and teach these to your kids? Or is it just a lecture you heard on a Sunday morning and then go back to your regular life and just ignore it all? So, we can't leave it up to our school teachers or spiritual teachers to teach our families. You as the parent have to learn how to find little golden moments to teach. Another thing I want to talk about, as it's kind of on the top of my mind, I had a client who was frustrated because they couldn't figure out how to teach their kid how to see honor or value in taking the trash out. And so what I suggested was, for 30 days, take my coaching and implement it, and I promise your kid will start taking the trash out. So the gentleman said, okay, I'll take on your challenge. So the challenge was, every time you want the trash to be taken out for the next 30 days from your son or daughter, I want you to take the trash out yourself and invite your son. I think it was his son. I want you to invite your son to help you take the trash out, rather than you making it about him. And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, you take it out and invite him to help you. And in that process...
So they both took the trash out?
Yeah, they actually both took the trash out. But it never got to the 30 days, which was cool. I said, and upon having your son help you, I want you to figure out how to connect with him at a deeper level and have that experience of him helping you be like one of the best experiences that whole day. And he goes, all right, done. So he took the challenge. It literally took him about 5 to 7 days before I started to get these text messages saying, oh my God, now he's helping me. Now he's excited, going, hey Dad, do you need help taking the trash out? It was day 3. And I think day 5 or day 7, he texted me with happy face going, I didn't even get to the trash time. he actually took it out before me. So when I got to see him and I asked him what happened, to explain to me, what he said was, the minute that I invited him to take the trash out and asked him I needed his help, I noticed that he just paused his video game and he ran over to help me. Like he was eager to help his dad because his dad asked for the help. And then before you know it, I asked him, he said, hold the trash can while I pull the trash bag out. And he goes, I struggled and over exaggerated and we tied it. And then I said, help me take it to the trash. And then when I walked to the door, I paused and I looked at him and then he opened the door for me and we got around the house and he opened the gate for me. And before I can ask him to open the trash can lid, he opened it for me. I threw it in and then I high-fived him. And then we started talking. Before he knew it, it became our little moment that we would bond every night at 7 p.m. after dinner. It was our little ritual. And it happened every day until one day he actually took the trash out before me. He just at some point decided like on his own, I should be doing this. So it's kind of like he tricked his kid into realizing that this is something that he enjoyed doing or he wanted to do. And that's the power of realizing as a conscious parent that you can stick with the old way of, being angry at him or mad at him or pointing out what he's not doing or pointing out all the flaws of how lazy he is and speaking into the dysfunction. Or you can figure out how to reinvent yourself and be clever and invite your kid into a new experience, or invite your son or daughter into explaining to them why it's important or the value of it, such that they flip their own switch and decide, maybe I should do this for myself, or maybe this can be something I can do to help my family out. As parents, we're not taking that leadership role and teaching our kids these distinctions.
I really, really love that story because I could kind of relate it to myself where, growing up, I hated doing the dishes, but as the oldest daughter, dishes were like, have my name all over it. So, I never had my mom, it would have been really amazing to have my mom say, can you help me with the dishes?
Yeah.
And then I would have taken that on. Maybe. Maybe. But some of the greatest bonding moments I ever had with my little sister was me inviting her to help me do the dishes.
Aww.
Well, because I needed help.
Yeah.
Or tricking her. So much so that pretty much all through, junior high school, when we were really adamant about doing that, she would say, I'm going to do the dishes. Can you help? And then I would go because I know what it's like to be stuck with the entire family's dishes doing it yourself. So, just relating that to the relationship that me and my sister created on that, every now and then she'll go, there's a bunch of dishes. Do you want to help me? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no. But I go because it just brings me back to that time where we would do that together.
Yeah, and it's something powerful about inviting somebody to do something that even if it's something that you expect them to do, and then you roll up your sleeve and go, hey, I'm just going to get this done. Will you support me in it? It's a whole new way of empowering people. Are you inspiring and empowering or encouraging your kids? Or are you still the old autocratic style of parenting and trying to control them and muscle them and fear them into doing those things the way that you were brought up? Which that, it taught you some morals and values, but it was jammed down your throat. It wasn't something that lasted with you for a lifetime. It was something that you did because you were forced to do it. And it probably came with some resentment. You probably have some resentments that you still hold on to your parents because they made you do things that you just didn't want to do. You didn't see the value of it. Today's kids, they're advanced. They need to know why. And if you don't give them the why, they'll do it. They'll roll their eyes and they'll do it. But they're going to have some resentment towards you. And all that stuff gets in the way of your relationships. But if you empower them and inspire them and invite them, and then you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get dirty in there the first 3 or 4 or 2 dozen times, eventually they'll see the value in that and doing it for themselves.
We have to take a quick break, but before we go, I want to kind of point out that the next segment, I want to really talk about the why. I want to talk about why the kids are super into the why for the parents. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located in Old Town Newhall, the CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go to canyontheater.org.
There are times when nothing else will do because you know exactly what you want. You want the Alamo, the taste of true Mexican cooking at its best. At Alamo, you're treated to a taste that is truly Mexican with an atmosphere to match. Enjoy a Cadillac margarita, try a mucho burrito, or sizzling fajitas. Voted the best Mexican food in the SCV and a favorite of former supervisor Mike Antonovich. Alamo Rotisserie in Granary Square, serving Santa Clarita for over 30 years.
KHTS.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Before we went on the break, we were talking about how I wanted to bring up why us millennials, us younger kids need to know why we need to do, certain things. So on the break.
They don't call you the Y generation for no reason.
So on the break, I brought up a scenario because I really don't know why I need to know, but I know that I do need to know. So in the scenario, I said, if my mom asks me, hey, can you take your grandmother to the doctors? I'll say, first, before I say yes, I'll say why. Why me? Why can't you? Why can't her sister, her other daughter, her caregiver, my sister? Why me? So I was kind of saying that if my mom were to say, just because I said so, or because nobody wants to do it, then my attitude about it would be a little bit different. Versus if she said, listen, I really can't do it. I'm slammed at work or this, that, whatever. No one else can do it. Can you please take her? That's for whatever reason, that's different. And my attitude about it would be different. But it wouldn't necessarily affect whether I would do it or not. I guess it would affect my attitude towards it.
Yeah. There's a part of, I think, millennials that want to know that they're important. They want to know that they matter. They want to know that they are needed. They need validation, as all human beings do when we're little. If we don't get that when we're little, if we're not being seen and recognized for our existence, to know that there's something valuable about us, then we seek it for the rest of our life. And you've seen this before, where you have 40, 50-year-old adults that still are seeking approval from their parents. And if you never get it, you're always going to be on a mission to try to be, get the approval of your mom or your dad or whoever it is that you're searching for. So it's simple. If you're asking why, what you're asking for the mom or the dad is just to be vulnerable and authentic and go, the reason why is because I got a lot on my plate right now, and you're the person that I trust most out of all three of my kids, or you're the one that's here right now, or you're, for whatever reason, you're just wanting an authentic reason. Just tell me the truth, right? Rather than just being left in the dark with not knowing why. And it's valid. It's valid as a human being to know why we do something. I think as parents and business owners, if you have millennials. And by the way, I'm actually working on a course to start teaching business owners in the local community about millennials. It's going to be a millennial workshop, which is going to be awesome. But it's to help you understand why millennials operate and why they're looking for the answers and the reasons. When you give a millennial the right answer or the reason or the authentic reason, what happens is when they flip a switch, then you take ownership of it. When you don't give them the why, they don't buy in. They'll do it because you're asking them to do it, or you're paying them to do it, or
and the attitude and the quality work is different.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if you really want your employees or your kids to really own something and to give it their 150%, you have to include them. You have to give them more information. You have to invite them to some of the meetings. You got to bring them into some of the brainstorming sessions and go, hey, at a certain point in a certain stage, I'm going to ask you to take on this role, but I want to bring you in on the early stages of us designing it. You got to give them some buy-in. They have to see the part that they play in it. They got to see where they fit in. When they do, they flip the switch, and that you got now a 100% teammate. But when you don't do that, they feel like they're not a teammate. They're just your flunky, and then they'll do it, but they're going to do it, without having, taking responsibility for it and doing it in excellence.
Yeah, I can't wait for that training to take over the, employers in this valley and further, I can kind of, I can, as you're saying that, I can identify and think of very specific situations, where I'm sitting there like feeling like I'm just being told what to do, the assistant, all those things where I feel like I have more to offer than that. And, I can vouch for my friends who, we're all in the same boat because we have very, I guess baby boomer bosses. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. We get by, but I would love to see that.
But that
be
goes to show you.
implemented.
But that goes to show you that as millennials, you're looking and yearning to be recognized and seen for the mini leader that you are, or the qualities that you can bring in addition to just going and making these copies, or just going and making that call, or just go and clean your room. You're yearning to be validated that there's something greater in you, and I think you want your parents to see that. You want your bosses to recognize that and then speak into it, saying, hey, like, if I'm going to ask you to do, make these copies, it's not just to make the copies just because I can get anyone to do that. I'm asking you to make these copies because I have a vision of you later on learning this work so that I can promote you to a new place. You, as millennials, you constantly need to be validated for what's next. What's my next level? Where do you see me now? What's the next stage for me? So you guys are yearning to kind of be validated for your growth and for the value you bring, because you might not even know what your own value is. And I talk about that a lot in my book too, as when we're inspiring, what you're doing is as a coach or a mentor or as an inspirational parent, the art form is learning how to speak into the greatness of your son or your daughter, speak into the greatness of your employee, because they don't know what that next level of greatness is. They're relying on you and your vision and where you see them. They're relying on you to paint that picture for them, to bring that to life. One of the greatest gifts that I got from my mentors is that my mentor, she saw me in all of my greatness before I can see it myself. And when she spoke into that, for some reason, it got me excited. Like, I always wanted to spend time with her. Every time she was doing stuff, I'll volunteer to do stuff for free just to hang around her. And it was almost like if I painted this cartoon character, I would say, tell me how amazing I am again. You know what I mean? It was like speaking to my greatness. So we need people to recognize our greatness and then talk about it and acknowledge it and keep speaking into that vision of us, that we can keep reinventing ourselves to one day become that version.
Yeah, and I remember not too long ago we did a show about millennials and in the workplace, and you had told me about a client that asked you. He had said, Alex, I have employees, these millennials, and they're not taking notes. And I remember that was like a really big thing. And I didn't have an answer. I had no idea. Because I would say, sometimes I take notes, sometimes I don't. I don't know where that comes from. And just the other day, I was walking in the hallway, and my boss stops me and gives me this big, long list of stuff. And I'm thinking, how am I supposed to remember all this? How am I supposed to take all these notes? But I remember, coming up with that answer that it's just our two different personalities, coming together and figuring out how to work together would be really exciting. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited for that to come up. So thank you for joining us today on The Inspirational Parent. We're here every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on your hometown station, KHTS.